Okay. I'd like to call this meeting of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee to order for Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. I'm now going to read the script for remotely conducted open meetings. Good morning. This open meeting of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee is convening by video conference pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website, unless otherwise noted. This meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that other people may be able to see you, and take care not to share your device's screen. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Please silence all phones and devices. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Use the raise hand feature in Zoom to indicate that you'd like to offer a comment. The chair will call on those who have raised their hands in the order they were raised. All questions should be directed through the chair. If you're not able to participate in the remote meeting, you may also submit comments to the Coastal Resilience Coordinator, Leah Hill, and request that they be read into the meeting record. Her email is lhill@nantucket-ma.gov. I am Peter Brace, Chair of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Gary Beller.
Here.
Sarah Boyce.
Here.
Jen Carberg.
Here.
Tim Brain.
Here.
Doug Rose.
Here.
Joanna Roach.
Here.
Okay. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Leah Hill.
Here.
Anticipated speakers on this agenda, please respond in the affirmative. I don't see any speakers yet, but we may get some members of the public. Okay. Finally, each vote taken in the meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Okay, is there any public comment not related to this agenda? No. We're going to observe a moment of silence for former Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee member Carl Borchett, who recently passed away. So let's give it a few moments. Okay. Number 5, review generated coastal resilience topics and schedule for communication and outreach efforts. Check out your packets, and I'll turn it over to Leah.
All right, thanks, Peter. So first off, thank you all for sending me all of those topics. They were great. I'm going to share my screen and pull up just the draft communication outreach topics and timeline. Can you guys all see that? Okay. Is it zoomed in enough, or should I zoom it in more? It's good. Okay, great. Okay, so what I did was I compiled all of, let's see, there we go. I compiled everything that you all sent me. The ones that are red with a line through it, those are the ones that the topics or the themes that I put into the draft timeline. So the ones that have not been kind of X'd out, I thought that those could be topics for the following 6 months after this. So we have a lot of content. what I did was look through all of it, see what were some common themes. So the first one I put for November, explaining what coastal risks are on Nantucket. And so that's for the first month. It would go into the risk assessment, which is in the coastal resilience plan, explain erosion, flooding, both high tide and sea level rise, flooding, coastal storm surge, and then groundwater table rise. And then for descriptions, I just, put in some kind of overlying examples of what could go in there. And then the illustrations to use, just looked through the CRP and saw what was applicable, or, if we can find pictures from elsewhere that would be applicable as well. And so I did that for every month. Again, this is a draft, so if people want to edit it, we can go through that. If you have suggestions, we can add that in as well. For the month of December, we'd focus on the coastal resilience plan. So first off, what is coastal resilience? Because after talking to, some people in the community, they don't know what it is. So just defining what it is. And then the 3 methods of coastal resiliency. So that was explained in the CRP, you're protecting, adapting, or relocating. And then what is the CRP, and the plan's goals and objectives. So just kind of like a high level introduction to the coastal resilience plan for December. For January, going into the CRP recommendations. So the first week, how were they determined? Through stakeholder and community engagement and the evaluation criteria that was used. And then the 3 types of recommendations. So the structural ones, the non-structural, and then nature-based for the 4th week. For February, continuing on with the CRP recommendations and digging a little bit deeper. The first week, explaining what the priorities are. So, high, medium, and low. And then week 2, the near-term strategic opportunities, and explain those and how they were chosen. And then the long-term adaptation pathways, explain those, why they're, and some examples. And then week 4, island-wide recommendations, how they were determined, and then list which ones they are. And then week 5, the area-specific recommendations and the focus areas. For March, going into the CRP timeline, so just an overview of the timeline, like how it was produced, how the projects are broken up into implementation years, and then going into each, the ones that are in 2020s, 2030s, and 2050s. For April, I thought that it could be a good idea to, this is the month before town meeting, so to explain what coastal resilience districts are, since town council will be working on a bylaw and a home rule petition for them. So educating the public about that. And then the 2 projects that hopefully make it through the capital request, which are the strategic retreat and relocation plan, and then the Pulpus Road road raising at Folgers Marsh. And then, going into those, and then week 4, just highlighting the projects again with maybe some other information. And then the week before town meeting, doing another coastal resilience districts post and explaining some more information that didn't make it into the first post. And then let's see, week 2 for May, this would be going into the projects that are currently ongoing right now. So the downtown neighborhood flood barrier, the sediment transport study and dredge plan, the shoreline change monitoring project, and the Ames Avenue Bridge Resilience and Medicaid Erosion Management pilot projects. So that brings us to the end of May. It's a lot of information, and I thought that it could be, it would be really helpful for me because, creating content for these posts is going to take a lot of time. And so I was talking to Peter earlier, if we can assign each committee member to, have a week probably 2 weeks, because I think there's 30 posts or something like that that will happen between November and May. If each person can have 2 weeks and 2 weeks of posting. So what would happen is you would email me the content and the pictures, or whatever illustration video you want to have in that post, and then I will go through it, edit it if necessary, and then post it on the NRG Instagram and Facebook. And those posts, I can talk to Florencia and have them get shared or reposted on the town's social media as well. And we could go from there. So what I'm thinking is, for whatever posts are due, let's say in December, they would all get sent to me by a certain date in November. So I have them ready, and we can go from there. And then I was also thinking, for the different themes, NCF and Mariah Mitchell have said that we could have a little coastal resilience section in their newsletter. So the posts that we compile for that month could be used then in the newsletter, in a cohesive way. That's what I've got so far. If people have suggestions or edits, I guess we can talk about those now.
Okay, Doug, go ahead.
Thanks, Peter. I just wanted to applaud Leah's very hard work. I've had to do things similar to this in my past, and it's really a challenge when you're trying to parse together input from 11 different people, each of whom thinks about things a little bit differently, expresses things a little bit differently, and try to get it all into one spreadsheet, and also make it flow with a logic to it is no small task. So I first of all just wanted to give her big thumbs up, because this is a lot of work just to put the plan together. The other comment that I was going to make or offer was, and I exchanged a note with Leah on this. I do think the creation of content is going to be a big job, more than is right to ask of any one individual. So I would be happy to assist in any way I can. I do think it would be good for every committee member to think about what of these list of agenda items they would feel capable to give some thought to, how to express it in terms that a layperson can understand. Because I think each one of these could be a little bit of a challenge. And if we take them apart and divvy them up or delegate them to individuals, I think that might make it more feasible to achieve. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. On that last bit, I'm actually thinking it'd be better if Leah just assigned us the weeks that we're going to work on, and we'll be given plenty of time to come up with our posts, but to avoid people saying, I want this one, I want that one, and having to have a discussion about that. I think it would be better because we all know the plan, we have all the information at our disposal, and we're just going to be giving her the ideas for the posts. If we can, we're going to write the posts ourselves, and then she's going to edit them, but it saves her from having to do it all herself. Those are just my thoughts. Sarah?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I respectfully disagree. I kind of think if we don't have to have a discussion about it, I don't think we need to waste meeting time. But if we send Leah, here are ones that I think I could do well, and then she can assign it. I feel like I would be okay with her assigning whatever, but I feel like there's some that people may be more comfortable with, or maybe have some more knowledge of, and I wouldn't want to, anyway, I just think that people should be able to identify which one they feel maybe more comfortable with. But aside from that, the question I had for Leah was about, what do you see for length? So I know that we had talked about doing, especially for social media, doing sort of like quick blurbs or like short things. But since a lot of these, there's like a lot put into one post, like, then I was wondering if you were thinking of it like blog post length and then it links to something, because like, or it, I don't know. I guess I'm looking at like the groundwater table riser, it's like a lot. And so I'm like, I guess I'm just curious for guidance of when we're writing this. Obviously there's like the social media blurb is nice to be short, but we actually want to like have decent information. So I kind of thought if we were going to do a newsletter that we'd have like a longer thing and it would link to it. But if we're just doing this, which is great, we should have something like uniform way of doing it, I guess.
Yeah,
Peter, is it
Leah,
okay if I answer?
before you say that, I just wanted to, and I understand what you're saying, Sarah, about us choosing the ones we want to write. But I guess what I was trying to avoid was everybody choosing the same few and then others, and then a whole bunch of them over here and no one wants to do, and then who has to do those? So it's hard for how are you gonna, what about the ones that nobody wants to do? That's what I'm saying. But yeah, go ahead, Leah.
Okay. I see where you're saying, Sarah, about there's a lot that goes into really each one of these topics. What I had envisioned is, either using, let's say for the groundwater table rise, there's a great map in the CRP. You could use that. You could use, if you have other pictures on your iPhone, or, there's one in the CRP too of current examples that are happening right now. And then as far as like the blur part, I would say, some can be longer than others. Obviously, it's also like how you write it and how you kind of space the information, so that's more easier to read and more digestible. I would say sometimes I do something like 5 facts about it, or I don't know. We can kind of work out how it's going to go as it goes. I feel like the first couple are going to be sort of experiments and see how it goes, and then from there we can learn and say like, oh, actually keep it to 3 sentences, don't add this much. And then as far as the newsletter, yeah, if we want, we can obviously add more information to that. So if it's a post that you're going to do about groundwater, you want this on Instagram, that's 5 facts or something like that. But for the newsletter, you think this information should go in it. That can be helpful too, and I can compile them separately or together and then use that for the newsletter. That makes sense.
And I see you, Gary, and I just want to say, Leah, or to the committee, maybe the first post, or maybe there's a sentence in every post that says why we're doing this. So the first post hits people and it goes out there and says, this is the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee, and we're doing a series of social media posts to inform the public. Because not everyone's going to see the first post. So maybe there needs to be a line in there that explains what we're doing. Just a thought. Gary, go ahead.
Thank you, Peter. First of all, Lee, I think you did a great job in collecting all of these suggestions that your committee has made, and I think that's great. When I looked at this, I wasn't sure whether the draft communications and the outreach topics would be something we wanted the public to do or just to educate them. From what I see now, it's clear, and I have no problem with it, by the way. I think it's fine. What we're talking about is a major education program. We're not asking them to do anything. We're telling them or explaining to them what we're doing. I think that's a fine choice, at least for the first year or so, to make sure people understand a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about. When I look at the fact that you have a different topic for each week, I think I say, well, gee, that is really an aggressive schedule, because each one of these topics is very important, and most of them are not suitable for quick little blurbs. So I mean, I don't have any problem with it. It's just that to do this every week means that you, Leah, and hopefully we'll be able to help, the committee will be able to help you folks put together what we want the public to learn on each of these subjects, but it's a tough task. And I agree with Peter's suggestion, you know, in the newspaper business, they talk about the lead, you know, what's the headline sentence of the article, which makes people decide to read it or not. And that's what Peter's suggesting for each of these topics. So I think that's a good idea, figure out what the best lead is. But anyway, as I say, I think it's an excellent work that you put together this. And I think it'll be just a lot of work to try to do this, especially if we're going to have a different subject every single week on social media on some of these very complicated projects. But I'm glad to help out, and everywhere I can. I'm not a technical specialist on any of this stuff, but I'll be glad to try to help.
Gary, before I get to you, Joanna, you know, it doesn't have to be a big, long explanation. And if you look on social media, some posts are just, you know, inches and inches long, which is possible, but we don't want to, we want to hold their attention, and then we want to make them go and look at the plan and understand it. The whole idea is to just tell people that this is going on. The plan was created and this is why, and to get people interested. We're just trying to inform them, and hopefully they take the link and go and look at the plan, but we don't have to write a book about it with each post. So I see what you're saying, definitely. Joanna, go ahead.
Hi, I'm going to echo what everyone has said. Leah, great job. This is not easy to do, but I do have a couple of thoughts. So let's see. So the understanding is that this is going to get posted where? On whose social media to start? On the towns, on the Natural Resource Department? Where is this going? I guess that's the question first.
Go ahead, Leah.
So it would get definitely posted on the Natural Resources social media. And then Florencia and Haley said that if we send them the content, they can post it on the town's social media as well.
Okay. So, because I think that in addition to this, we should kind of try to map out like a hierarchy of where this is going to go, because we all have various organizations that we're affiliated with. So I think part of the strategy would be that we would all share whatever the Natural Resource Department posts. And I think that's how the content gets spread throughout the week. So I think that's important for everybody to understand, right? And then I think the second thing is, sorry, this is really a suggestion for Peter. I think that you should go first and you should set the stage for this, in the sense that, you know, hi, I'm Peter Brace. I'm the chair of this committee. We're undertaking this effort and I'm leading it off. And this is why it's important. And then I think that I think somebody else made this point, it might've been Doug. I think there needs to be 3 sentences of boilerplate, and then a place where people can refer back to things that they may have seen or that someone else may have, like they can refer back always to the Natural Resources Department. So 3 sentences of boilerplate saying this is an effort created by the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee. We're hoping to educate the public about the important work we do on the Coastal Resiliency Plan. If you have any questions, you can contact Leah Hill. Right, so very simple boilerplate. And then I think that if, Leah, this is more of a suggestion for you, when it gets posted, to share the post with everybody on this committee, both digitally and in an email, so that we can then share it on our social channels. But also if you put it in an email, then we'll be able to pop it into whatever digital communications we're doing. So like a newsletter, for example, which I'm totally committed to publishing whatever we're coming up with in our newsletter. But I think that if we can create some systems where we're creating some ease for people to follow through on this. I think it would be, one, really important, and two, would just make it easier for everybody else on the committee to participate in this, activation. The other thing is that I'm open to either participating in an assigned topic or choosing some that I feel I could talk about. So I think either of those could work. But one, I think this is, let's see, in the 2.5 years that I've been on this committee, this is the most positive thing that we have done. Right. So really kudos to everybody, because this feels like we're taking action, and that is really important to me. So thank you.
Thanks, Joanna. Jen?
Thanks, Peter, and echoing everyone, this is an immense amount of work, and I think this is really, really, really important for us as a committee to be putting this out there. I like how you staged it, Leah, with introduction leading into knowing what we're going to have asks for at town meeting. Like, I think that's a really great goal for this first, months of the education piece. What I'm thinking about and wondering about and hearing, everyone talk about, okay, we can do a short blurb, but there's probably more information we're going to want to share for education. And thinking about the fact that people get their news and education in very different ways. Some people access social media really well, whereas some people are better at browsing a website. And also thinking about an organization that is a newsletter that can put stuff in. We only do our newsletter once a month. So how do I take, these 5 weeks and put that into a newsletter form to share where people can go and check it out? And what I'm getting to is I wonder if it's possible on the town website setup to host not a blog, but what is like kind of a blog structure. So a page that all of this outreach that we're putting together goes on to. So say, looking at week 2 erosion, if that was my week, I could have, a pretty accessible social media post with 1 or 2 pictures that talks about erosion impacts on Nantucket. And then that would be reposted on that, for lack of a better word, blog accumulated post on the town website. But if I had more information, that could go there too. So if someone clicks through the post on social media, it can lead them to the CRP on the town website, but it could also lead them to that kind of accumulated blog post page. And then we could keep sharing that. So like in the NCF newsletter for November, we could say, if you're paying attention, the town's been talking about these coastal resilience issues, X, Y, Z. And if you want to read more, go to this one page that has everything kind of accumulated on it. I don't know if that's more work, less work, but it might be a way to take this effort that we're doing and kind of memorialize it in another place where other people could access it, and it might have a little bit of a longer shelf life.
All right, thank you, Jen. Gary?
Yes, I was thinking about it, and just a thought that you folks are going to do anyway when you talk about social media. But, I read the Nantucket Current just about daily, whenever it was produced, I don't know, 3 times a week or daily. And one thing I noticed, and I've also been told this by people on my committee, is that the Nantucket Current is always looking for material. Just as proof of this, if you take a look what they do, every time they make a publication, if it's every other day, they talk about the Salt Marsh Senior Center. There is so much information about the Salt Marsh Senior Center, what the menus are, what the food is, who the speakers are. So the point is that they're looking for material. And just think if the Nantucket Current decided that our weekly information packet would be a regular feature of their publications every time. I just think it's a great opportunity, because it seems that they're looking for material to produce. And here we are looking to make sure the public gets educated. So just my thoughts.
And Gary, I don't think we'll get any resistance from them at all saying, here, will you do this? Jason will, I'm sure he'll do it.
Yep.
I'm sure it won't take any convincing. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we have to be a little careful because the current does charge for most things. They pick up what they want to pick up, which is great. They do calendar items for free. So if we had an event or something, that a lot of that goes into free, which I think is why the Salt Marsh Center is like most of those are event things. So to take to your point, Gary. But what we can do is on all the social media posts that we have through Natural Resources Department, we can tag the current because they often just reshare. So even if it doesn't make it into the newsletter, their social media is very, very active and followed by a lot of people. And a lot of times they will readily share any of that information. So that's one way to get it out there. I mean, we can certainly talk to Jason about having a regular feature as a group. But just that's another way, you can always tag, we can make a list of who, not that we're like, I'm an expert or anything, but just like the current, the chamber, Acclimate, any of those partners who are interested generally in coastal resilience issues would be, if we tag them, it's more easier for them to share it.
Thanks, Sarah. And I had an idea last week when I was sitting at Stubby's waiting for an order, and there was a copy of the student newspaper Veritas there, and if we could find out who the adult teacher or whoever that person is that advises Veritas, we can reach out to them and get our content into Veritas and maybe get them to do a story about us or about what we're doing and about the plan. That'd be another way. Then we're reaching out to kids who hopefully tell their parents, and Veritas is all over the island. And so that was one way. So, Leah.
Thanks, Peter. John, I love that idea, and I'm going to ask Florencia if that is, I think it might be able to do it on the new Zen City platform that they have, but I'll confirm with her about being able to have a web page for all of this outreach material to kind of go back to that. And then I think to Sarah's point, it would be helpful if you all could email me, accounts or anything to tag everyone in for these posts. I mean, I know a couple, but I'm sure I don't know all of them. So it would be helpful if people could email me their suggestions.
Okay, I don't see any more raised hands. Is that an indication that we agree that we're going to move forward with this and that we will email Leah our preferences for weeks? I'll certainly do that, but I'll take any one that you assign me. I realize that there'll be ones that nobody wants. Then we'll have to divvy those up, but we're good to go if everyone's all set and no more comments. Leah?
I'm just thinking November's next week. So Peter, do you want to do the initial kickoff one for this Thursday?
For this Thursday? Or do you mean next?
Well, next week, then we start November, and that's the first one is the risk assessment and the CRP.
Okay,
if we're following the schedule, then that initial one would have to be this week.
Being the chairman is a hard job. Okay, yep, I'll do the 26th.
Okay.
Sure. Keep it on me. Okay, yep. By the end of the day, by early morning, or you want it so that you can post it on Thursday. Is that correct?
Yes, my day's Thursday to post. So as long as you get it to me,
Guess I'm doing it tonight. Yeah, okay. No problem. So we're all set?
Do you want to vote? Do you need a vote on this or?
Yeah, we'll take a vote on this. Somebody want to do a motion?
I make a motion to move forward with Leah's outreach plan.
Second.
Aye.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. I'm just gonna go top to bottom. Sarah Boyce,
Aye.
Jen Carberg,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Doug Rose,
Aye.
Gary Beller,
Aye.
Joanna Roach,
I,
Christy Kickham.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, excellent, everyone. Okay, so, is there any member of the public that wants to comment on this item? Seeing none, moving on to number 6. And number 6, public outreach ideas, strategies from committee members. This was my idea, and this is something that's going to always be on the agenda. This is an open item. It's between now and the next meeting or the meeting after that. Any of our members have ideas you want to share with us, you can go ahead and say them now or at the next meeting, and Leah will make note of those. Those may become items for a future meeting. They may become projects for us. I just thought that we should have a open forum item, and if no one has anything to say, then we just move on. It's not intended to be an hours-long discussion on your idea. It was just here's an idea. Okay, good, and then we'll follow up on it. Doug, do you have an idea?
Yeah, this may not be directly relevant to how you teed it up, Peter, but circling back to the last meeting, I think all of us were very excited about the conversation that we had with the member of the public who was a realtor. I'm going blank on her name. Was it Shelley, I think? And I was curious if, question for Leah, did she follow up with you? Do you have a next step kind of figured out as far as developing some kind of, oh gosh, what was it called? Some kind of educational effort aimed at realtors. Thanks.
We could definitely make it an agenda item, and I could definitely envision, more homework, where we could think about wording for such a thing, to be, massaged by Leah and then approved by us. So go ahead, Leah.
Thanks, Peter. Doug, to answer your question, I have not had, she did not email me. I think where we left it was that she was going to look into it a bit more and see what needed to get done, like what I don't know what the schedule was and what had to go into it. But I have not heard anything since.
Okay, and I just had one other idea. Veritas was kind of the idea, but it was apropos for item 5. And the other idea was, I'm friends with a woman named Molly Zagans, who used to work at Mariah Mitchell, and then most recently Massachusetts Audubon Society. And she is an adult liaison for the Student Youth Climate Committee, which is a high school organization. And she says they meet, I think, at Lemon Press, and might be interested to have members of our committee as well as Leah come and talk to them about what we do. So that might be a way to get the word out. Just an idea. Does anybody else have any ideas they want to share? Gary?
There's one topic which we talked about. It's part of our plan. And I'm not sure how we will go about educating ourselves, but something that we've seen in some other waterfront communities, or that some of these communities have put in place plans to figure out how to move people from these coastal locations where they are in clear danger of losing their property to other locations. And to do that, we saw that thing, it was happening in couple of towns in Rhode Island. And there may be some financial tax benefits or so, or ways that people can figure out, if I know I'm going to lose my home. I mean, we know there are 17 homes in Mattakit that ain't going to make it over the long pull. Question is, what are those people going to do? Is there a way that, are there programs available that give them some kind of a benefit, tax or otherwise, for ceding their property to the town and figuring out how to use that benefit for them to relocate on the island? we have a special problem on the island because, as we've talked about before, there's very little land that is available for development, only 4% according to Tucker Holland. So, but I think it's a subject we ought to talk about with some expert in the future, and I'm not sure who's best to educate us on that.
Leah,
Thanks, Peter. Gary, I envision that being in the strategic retreat and relocation plan, having a section in there for homeowners, you know, the different options that they have and different organizations or, you know, federal programs or state programs that have what you just talked about.
thanks, Leah. Christy?
Yeah, this might be, I'm not sure if I'm lining this up with the correct conversation right now, but the, just a thought about, you know, going back to, I know some of the ideas thrown out for outreach. I just want to make sure we're not forgetting maybe the, whatever might be the best portal for the seasonal population. You know, whether it's through the paper, letting them know that there is, you know, a different portal, maybe through natural resources, but I just want to make sure that we keep in mind the best ways to reach that population as well. I don't exactly know what those are right now. It was just a thought that came in my head, but just thought it might be something that we should just be mindful of if we come up with you know, ideas or thoughts, so that all of this work, which is a great great project, is also seen by, you know, the seasonal population.
And Christy, are you talking about seasonal property owners?
Correct.
Specifically?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Gary's representing the non-voting taxpayers. And then we also have as a supporter and a connection, Peter Morrison and Charlie Stott as co-presidents of the Nantucket Civic League. And a lot of their members are seasonal. So those are two outlets right there. But definitely good thoughts. I appreciate it.
Good start.
Anybody else? Okay. Are there any members of the public that want to contribute an idea? I guess that's you, Pam. Okay, so seeing none. Item 7, review and finalize area association survey questions. Go ahead, Leah.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so after going through this document at the last meeting, I updated it with the suggestions from the committee. So first, under purpose, I defined what resilience is, and that's within the Coastal Resilience Plan. And then I said that this survey will help the town of Nantucket's Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee to gain clarity on homeowners' knowledge and worries about coastal hazards they experience on their property and within their neighborhood. Then I defined what a coastal hazard is, again, in the CRP, and said by answering these questions, it will help the committee develop informational materials that homeowners can use to implement best practices. So, you know, just some directions of what the survey's purpose is and how it's going to help the committee and the surveyor as well. There was a suggestion for adding in demographics. So I wasn't sure, Sarah, I think you had mentioned to put this at the end. So I didn't know if you guys want to put it at the end or the beginning. I just put it at the beginning. So which area association is your property located in? Put the 25 area associations that are within the Civic League here so that they can click on one of them. And then are they a seasonal resident or a year-round resident? For number 3, what I added was the additional thoughts box. Nothing was changed for number 4. Number 5, I went through the CRP and added some other resilience measures that are highlighted in there. So using flood-resistant building materials in interiors like ceramic tile or lime plaster, adding flood vents, elevating appliances and utilities, sealing the foundation and basement walls, filling basement, redirecting stormwater, and then an additional stats box. For number 6, I just spelled out the town's coastal resilience plan. And then added an interactive online tool and then additional thought. And if people have thought of other, informational ways to get this stuff out, we can add that in too. I just couldn't think of anything else. And then just deleted the sort of not really relevant questions. So the survey as of right now is 6 questions.
So for number 3, can you put a, well, go back down a bit. So we have, okay, so number 5, somewhere there you need to say, check all that apply. So people, I mean, you guys, does the committee think that's the intent? You're trying to get that information?
So in the initial directions about please pick all that apply and elaborate when necessary.
Yep. Okay, I was about to say, what do you guys all think? But we already have 2 people who want to say something. So Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick on number 6, I still think I think we talked about this last time. The word roadmap just to me feels very vague, and I think it's sort of consultant speak. I'm not exactly sure even what a roadmap is in this context. So I wish I had a better word to offer. I don't. I just think people will scratch their heads on that one. That's all.
Sarah?
Maybe I could add, I'm sorry.
Right. Go ahead, Leah.
I was saying maybe we could add what a roadmap is, a definition next to it, or see if there's a simile to it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because the roadmap term is kind of vague. Okay, Sarah.
Thanks, Peter. So I wanted to go back to number 6 also, because I just, I want to think about what do we want to get out of the survey. So when you do a survey, it's like, what we're trying to gauge what the preferences are for the neighborhood for like our next action steps with them. And so we should only put choices on there that we are willing to actually do, right? So, I mean, obviously there's the like, do you have any other ideas? But of course, I kind of try to put myself in a situation of someone who has no knowledge of this committee and like gets this from their homeowners association. And you're like, I don't know, pay for all the resiliency stuff. Like you could just see what like people might randomly put up. So I do agree that roadmap either needs to be explained or a different word used. Like, I don't actually know what a roadmap is, like a roadmap for moving your house, a roadmap for dealing with erosion, a roadmap for dealing with water, so just like being really clear, because I think what are we going to do with the information? So what I'm assuming is that what we want to know is what are the tools that each neighborhood would value from this committee. And so we might even consider changing the question a tiny bit just to be a little bit more informative, because someone's like, oh, the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee, yeah, like just do it for us. So like I think we have to maybe, qualify it with like within our power, or like with it, we're an advisory committee, so we can't just like do something for a neighborhood. But what type of information would be helpful that we could provide, or and like, because that's what the examples are, right? The examples are educational and informative and instructive. They're not action. Like we aren't actively like going to people's homes and doing it for them. So I just, you know, because of the fact that people are going to get this from their homeowners associations, they're not going to have that previous knowledge necessarily of like us as an advisory committee and what we are even capable of doing within the town. So just thinking of that wording. And then the only other thing I had was on number 1, which is all the different neighborhoods. I think we need to have a blank or like a other, please specify, because people might get this in some way. We don't know exactly how other people disseminate things and not identify with any one of those particular neighborhoods, but still have a house here. So that's, you know, just, you know, I can't exactly anticipate that, but it's always helpful for people to be able to add something else. But this, I think this is great because it's shorter, you know, it's succinct, but, so thank you for working on this.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. Abby?
Hi, thank you. I definitely echo Sarah's comments. I think just when I was thinking about this question and kind of in general, maybe when I think about roadmap from a work perspective, it's something that has, you know, specific goals or milestones. And especially as she's saying, like making it relevant to people, I think by, you know, either saying it's a set of defined goals, and we don't, to her point, like we don't necessarily need to do it all for them, but we could at least give them examples of these are the kind of goals you could look towards, so everybody understands they're setting their own. But I think if you kind of put it in that context of like a goal, and then even going further, if when setting a goal, you know, there are different tactics, there's SMART goals, like do you want it to be measurable, do you want it to be qualitative versus quantitative? I would just think that that might be something for the roadmap that might be helpful for people. So if it, you know, like if their goal as a community is like to reduce their water usage, or, you know, whatever that is, or, you know, however they want to define that, that would just be my 2 cents.
Okay. Don't see any more hands. Does this mean we're there? Do you have anything to add, Leah?
I just have a question. To Sarah's point, so do you want to change this question, or maybe up here, you know, where we say the purpose, give a little blurb about the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee, who you are and what you can do?
Through the chair, can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Thanks. Yeah, I think if there's like in the preamble, like, you know, a little blurb about like what the Coastal Resiliency Committee is and a little bit about that. And then maybe in the question, if others agree, just to say within our power or within our purview or mission, I can't like within our charge, I guess, I don't, just to I don't know, just to qualify it a little bit. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I just want it to be like, you know, sometimes I am concerned that because we're the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee and we're the ones that are like, having these bigger discussions about coastal resiliency, that the town, the members of the community think that we do everything. And we're an advisory committee, we have a lot, you know, so I might be overthinking it, but just to say, at the end of that question, having like within our capacity, either capacity or within our charge, or I'm not sure 100% sure what the right word is, but.
Okay. So, are we? Okay, Christy?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out an item to the committee here. I'm just looking through this, and possibly the biggest component of coastal resiliency is missing from this, which is financing. I don't know if we want to get into that yet, but if you have, you know, for example, question 3, what's your biggest concern? You don't have that as an option, but it's an option really for everyone. So I just want to throw it out there to find out what is a good time that when we should start bringing that up. Because it certainly is going to affect all of us at some point. That's it.
Joanna?
I obviously am going to agree with Christy, but my question really is, I'm not sure where we left off with the idea that we were going to make some sort of I'm going to call it a one sheet on how all of these projects are financed, and like maybe a fact sheet would be a good way to put it, like where we have defined the existing criteria with how things are being financed, what the terms used for the methods of financing are, and exactly what the status of the projects that we are already invested in are. Like, I feel like this is something that we should be reviewing at every meeting, right? Where we have like a sheet that's attached to the agenda that says all the projects that are in flow, what the financing level is, what's been approved, the ones that are coming up, how much is in the, what's being proposed for the next budget, how much is in the town account, which essentially really is used for matching grants at this point. But we don't review this on a regular basis, and I think it would be good for it to be top of mind. I mean, and maybe Christy can report out on the capital projects are already being planned. We've seen the initial budget for the town. There is a grant administrator in the budget, right? I think these are things that we should be talking about.
I agree with you. I agree with Christy. I think we should talk about them when they become relevant. It's not that they're not relevant at every meeting, but we're just advisory. And when they come up and they need a letter of support, or we need to comment on them, then that's when we get active, I think. Christy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for this round, you leave it out, and maybe you see if through questioning if these are things that might come up. But I want to keep it on, at least on our forefront, as we're pondering every other component of this and dissolving it to the public. I don't want to because it would drastically alter things. I think at this point, I think this is a good starting point. That will definitely come up, and I think we don't want to right off the bat initially, scare people. So I'm content with this moving forward the way it looks, with whatever adjustments we come up with. But not far in the distant future, I do think we should start bringing that more so into the conversation.
And I agree with you, Christy. I'm thinking now maybe there's a way we could just have, if you could scroll down, Leah. I'll scroll back up so we can see keep going up to the top. Okay, stop. I mean, number 3, you could put in financial, and I mean, if we're doing the survey, definitely people are thinking about the money. So financial concerns, something like that. What do you guys think? Because that's what people are thinking about. I mean, they're thinking about, oh my God, am I going to lose my property, or what's going to happen? It's going to be damaged. Am I going to have to move? Am I going to have to build something to protect my property? But it's all going to come back to, can I afford it? So we don't want the public to think that we're ignoring the financial of it, but then we don't want to get buried in it. So at least if we see everybody that checks this box, then we know where to go with that at a later time. Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I was gonna say basically what you did is I like adding this to number 3 because it's not a whole separate question where the whole thing is about financing. So I don't think we're ready to ask all those questions. And also that's not the main point of this, but bringing it up serves two purposes in this way, is that it does guide us if like everybody that fills this out, puts financial concerns. We're like, okay, great. People are already thinking like this, like, and know that this is going to be a big thing. The other thing that a lot of times survey questions and answers do is to like a form of education. So by seeing that as like, oh, I hadn't thought about that yet. It's it's part of that educational and tool, is just showing that like, we have thought of this. Maybe you haven't yet. Who's going to pay for all this? So I think it's a way to bring it up without, as you said, sort of like opening a giant can of worms. Maybe in a later stage, I think we can do, when we have more specific questions that we can take action on, we can have more of a finance question. But for right now, I think this is the best way to add it to the survey.
All right, thank you. Doug?
Thanks, Peter. A thought just occurred to me, and I should have thought of it earlier, and that is that it feels as though the majority of the focus of this particular survey is very neighborhood centric. And maybe that's because we're thinking first about, well, how is it going to be distributed? It's going through the homeowners association, which are inherently local. But what's missing, and maybe it's okay to be missing, but it is missing, is, are there bigger issues, as Christy was alluding to, around, dare I say, the survival of the island? Right now, it's about very personal or very local issues around, well, I'm afraid of water damage to my home. But what about, where do we address the level of concern that we might have over, the continued functioning of the harbor, or the airport, or the sewer beds, or the DPW facility, so on and so forth. So again, I'm just throwing it out there as it's an unaddressed issue in this survey. Maybe there's a separate survey that gets at that issue. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
I'll get you in a minute, Christy. This is ground level in your neighborhood survey. This is what we want to hear from people, what their concerns are on their property. That doesn't mean that we're ignoring what's going on around the rest of the island. I think we ask those questions, it makes it a much bigger survey, and broadens the scope, and we've got 5-6 questions, and we're talking about maybe adding 3 or 4 more, and then maybe we don't want to get that big yet. That's just what I think. Christy?
Yeah, I think that financial concerns is in the perfect spot. It introduces it lightly, safety in numbers with the other items. And then I just thought of one other item, if I could, something alluding to, are you worried about, your future generation being able to use your property somehow, because you look down the road and, seeing how things go, it just might be something that could come up, but that's not critical. I just, for some reason, thought of it 1 second ago. But I do like financial concerns where that is, and very content with that.
Well, in reference to what you just said, and Leah just sort of pulled it up right there, do you have concerns about your property, your neighborhood for the future? I mean, that's if we want to make that specific. If yes, explain.
No, that's good, Peter. I'm content with that. Yeah, I missed that one.
If they want to explain, they will, and then hopefully we'll hear something from them. Hopefully, Charlie and Peter will, or maybe hopefully Leah can convey to Charlie and Peter that we want them to take the time and think about how they're answering. If they're asked to explain, we definitely want to hear the explanation so that we get it. We can always do another survey. Okay, Gary.
No, I agree that the addition of financial concerns is in the right place. And since the beginning, the first sentence of that says, what are the concerns on your property or within your neighborhood? Then the answer people are going to make give us to financial concerns are the unbelievable rise in cost of flood insurance, particularly in flood areas. And none of them are going to be worried about the cost of saving Washington Street or the ferry terminal when they look at this. But I think it's absolutely fine by putting it in there, because they'll talk about their concerns, financial concerns in their property or their neighborhood. So I think it's great.
Okay. Can you scroll down a bit, Leah? Thank you, Gary. Where we were using roadmap and trying to come up with a word, why can't you just say protocol?
Resilience protocol, or just protocol.
Yeah, resilience protocol. Roadmap could be a lot of things, but protocol, we know, is, you know, it's a set of guidelines on what we're going to do, or what we think we're going to do, or whatever. But I think if you look up protocol, you'll find a definition. Roadmap is just going to say a map of the road or a map of whatever you are. It might say protocol is a synonym, but might as well, you know, say what we mean. So does anybody have anything else they want to add?
Can I make one suggestion?
Yep.
I think that there should be a number 7 and just say any other thoughts or any additional comments.
I'm good with that. How do you guys feel? Yes. Sarah says yes, so it must be okay. Okay.
You have additional thoughts just above.
Well,
The number-
that's related to just for number 6. So
Oh,
this would just be related for, like, if we say we missed something and they want us to know about it, they could explain it here.
Okay, I'm good with that. Leah, do we need to take a vote on the survey to say that we're good?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Okay, who was that?
That was Doug.
Okay, Doug, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I get a second from Tim. Okay, roll call vote. Gary Beller,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Doug Rose,
Aye.
Sarah Boyce,
Aye.
Joanna Roach,
Aye.
Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Abby DiMolina.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, thanks, everyone. Thanks for working this out. Okay, number 8, review draft of general letter in support of Conservation Commission's wetland regulation provisions. And so again, like the previous letter, which will be probably destroyed or, you know, wordsmith to death when we eventually write it, this is something to work from. This is what I think it should be, but we did get a comment from Gary Beller on how to rearrange one of the paragraphs. So I'll take thoughts on how we can change this or not. Go ahead, Gary.
So I'm just looking at the paragraph that begins, however, crack is stopping short. I had one suggestion for these 4 lines. The rest of it is fine, which says we request through your representative that the can keep committee up to date. Instead of those first 4 lines, I would recommend instead the following language, which of course, I'm glad to take any suggestions for changing it. And I don't know, Lee, if you want to put it up, you have a copy of it that they could see. I wasn't changing the whole paragraph, just the first 4 lines. If you just bring it up a little bit on the screen. There it is, yeah.
How do we feel about Gary's suggested change to those 4 lines? Tim?
Yeah,
Yes?
I like it. I think it's a good letter and
Can I
Nice.
add one word?
What's the word, Abby?
After comments and accordingly, we will reserve our final comments until after, I would just add until after we see that the final proposed changes. That's all.
Sure.
But otherwise, I agree, Gary. I think that is like the right direction, of course.
Thank you.
I'm fine with that. Replacing the 4 lines he was talking about. Are there any other comments on the letter?
I think you deleted the part we request through your representative.
Yes.
Did
that
you
should
want to
stay
keep
in.
that part, Gary, right?
Yes, we want to keep that in. We request through your representative on the crack, Tim Brain, should stay.
Yeah, so get rid of everything from discourse up to however.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, do we need to take a vote, Leah? Okay.
Yes.
Keeping us on a straight and narrow. Okay, we'll take a vote in support of this letter going to the Conservation Commission as written by your chairman and edited by all of you.
So moved.
So moved by Gary,
Second,
second by Doug Rose. Roll call vote, Gary Beller,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
aye.
Doug Rose,
aye.
Sarah Boyce,
Aye.
Joanna Roach,
Aye.
Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Abby De Molina.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay. Review and accept Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee's 3rd quarter report. It's all you, Leah.
Okay, just making sure you're seeing not the speaker view. Good, okay. So the 3rd quarter report is from July to September 2023. Why is this not moving? There we go. Okay, highlights from the quarter. All of the new positions that were voted in, and then CRAC produced recommendations to the select board regarding coastal resilience districts. For the 4th year in a row, September was Climate Change Awareness Month, and CRAC started to work on CRP High Priority 1-1 Outreach on Property Owner Resilience Best Practices. And as I go through this, if there's any edits or comments or additions, just let me know. So I gave you a presentation about CoastSnap and MyCoast apps and what they're going to be used for, where they're going to go. So that's just that page. And then the CRP status update, how I went through all of the projects and indicated if they're in development, underway, or complete. And I have in bold that in less than 2 years, more than half of the projects are, most of the recommendations are in development, underway, or complete, but there have been no structural projects underway yet. And then you guys got a presentation from Emily about the SNAP grant that Land Bank and the sewer department applied for Lily Pond. And then you worked on coastal resilience districts for 3 meetings to develop recommendations, which are going to be used moving forward for creating bylaw and home rule petition for town meeting. And then Climate Change Awareness Month proclamation, how it was a joint effort between CRAC and Acclimate, 4th year in a row. And there were lots of educational field trips and stuff. I led with RJ from the Land and Water Council and Guthrie from the Land Bank. We led a coastal resilience kayak tour, which was really fun. And then there was the first climate change summit on island, which was a great turnout. You discussed subcommittees and then ultimately decided not to go that route. We talked to Florencia and Haley about a communication outreach plan. And so that's that. And then you develop survey questions for homeowners associations to start implementing CRP High Priority 1-1. And just explain how the survey is going to go to the 25 homeowners associations within the Civic League first, what the goal is, and then how materials will be tailored for each neighborhood. We got an overview of the town's project funding process from Jeff, and then I listed out the 3 CRP projects that are in for capital request for fiscal year 25. And then I end with requests and recommendations. So there was a request for the town to hire a dedicated grant writer or writers. During one of the meetings, there was talk about the need for increasing the amount of money allocated in Article 10 for coastal resilience projects, and then for support of the 2 CRP recommendations in for capital request. And if there were any other requests or recommendations, please let me know if I missed any. And then I end it with if the select board's looking for any advice on upcoming or current issues.
Awesome.
And that is it.
Gary, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I just have one minor comment. I think it's a very excellent comprehensive report. The one item that I wouldn't include is the brief mention of our discussion of the committees. That's just internal housekeeping. That's not, to me, that's internal housekeeping, how we run ourselves. And I'm not sure I would include that as a major quarterly accomplishment, that's all.
I agree with Gary.
Do we all agree on that?
You want to delete it?
Yes. And then, Leah, this is a presentation you're going to give to the select board, right? And so this is the PowerPoint for it, but then are they going to get a hard copy in their packet?
Yeah.
It'll be
So
actually written, but not in, or is this is the report?
So this is the report. So this goes into their packet as is, and then at the meeting, I go through it all, you know, and add information to. These are kind of just like the bullet points to guide my presentation.
Okay.
And then, and then there's, I have to put in an agenda summary item too that goes there that kind of highlights what this is for the select board to read over.
Okay. Christy?
Yeah, Leah, could you go back to the CRP status update page with the, just curious, when you say project is in development or underway, at what point do you consider a project like underway? Is it that you've started talking about it? Is it financing? Is it I'm not sure what else, other components, but just curious from your point.
Is it okay to answer, Peter?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I consider it, so in development would be, you know, like writing a scope for it. Underway would be that it has financing, an RFP has gone out, and it's, you know, and then also it could be started as well. Complete would mean that it's completely done.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions? Do we like what we see? Are we voting on this, Leah?
Yes, you'll have to vote on it. I just want to double check that there were no other requests that I missed from meetings from July to September.
Okay, all right, we'll take a motion to approve our Liz third quarter report.
Motion to approve as amended, meaning minus that one slide on subcommittees.
Okay, Doug.
Yeah.
Second from Christie. Roll call vote. Christie Kickham,
Aye.
Doug Rose,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Sarah Boyce,
Aye.
Joanna Roach,
Aye.
Gary Beller,
Aye.
Abby De Molina.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, excellent. Okay. And now it's
Peter?
also, yep. Chris?
Just something, just something for Leah in the future. Another good thing to mention in these updates might be if there are more, but something like our, field trip out to Sconset is a kind of a nice component for the board to see the committee working on.
Leah?
Yeah, that was included in Q2 report because that was during that time frame. So when you guys do take more site visits, which I know that you've talked about, if it's during the time frame for the quarter report, then it goes in there.
Thank you.
Okay. Leah, you're up next for number 10, presentation on CZM grant for the Downtown Neighborhood Flood Barrier Project.
Alrighty. So as you all know, we got the CZM grant for the first phase of the Downtown Neighborhood Flood Barrier. It's very exciting because it is the first structural project that's recommended within the CRP that is going to be underway. So the overview of the larger Downtown Neighborhood Flood Barrier is basically from Children's Beach to Washington Street. The first phase is the Easy Street between Strait Wharf and Steamboat Wharf. So that's what the grant will be focusing on, is that area. But the objective of the whole Downtown Neighborhood Flood Barrier is to maintain access to and from the island for people and supplies by creating a flood defense to reduce coastal flooding and mean monthly high water through 2070. The conceptual design with the CRP includes different resilience approaches, from raised roads, raised bulkheads, reinforced dunes, flood walls, and berms. And so this is straight from the CRP. The pink area is the area that would be protected from the larger Downtown Neighborhood Flood Barrier. And you can see that, so that's that area. And then this is the section in yellow that is what the grant is going to focus on. So it has the potential to reduce the risk by protecting 2.5 miles of public roadways and 230 structures within Nantucket Historic District from high tide flooding as soon as 2070. So that's for the whole Downtown Neighborhood Flood Barrier. Again, this is the area in yellow that the grant is going to focus on here. And then this is taken again from the CRP, so it just shows different lines of what that flood barrier could potentially look like, and then elevating the 2 wharfs here.
And Leah, can you go back? So the feasibility study will look at that area that's circled in yellow, but then would that be, let's say it comes out that the study reveals that, yes, this is definitely possible. We should definitely do this. does that mean that if we want the barrier to go down Washington Street, we have to do another feasibility study for that? Or did we learn our lesson with the area that's in yellow and that this works there, and we should just, so in other words, once we've found that it works and get going on doing it, does that expedite doing it in other critical areas in the downtown area?
I don't know about expediting, but it would. As far as Washington Street, I think there would have to be other feasibility assessments for the different components of the downtown neighborhood flood barrier, because it ranges from, you know, building dunes at Children's Beach to elevating roads to elevating bulkheads. So it would have to look into, I think, the different areas.
So essentially every section we want to do, we'd have to do a feasibility study beforehand.
I believe so. And I'm going to mention this later, but the goal is for this section of the project to be able to tie into the whole downtown neighborhood flood barrier. So for whoever we hire, for consultants, for them to know that's the main goal, that whatever we do here has to be adaptable and be able to tie into the larger flood barrier, whatever that may be.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so the CZM grant, we were awarded $421,875. The total, the town is putting in about $110,000 of cash from Article 10, and then $30,000 of in-kind staff time. So on the project team, it's myself, Vince, Jeff, Greg, and then Chuck Larson and Holly Backus. The first phase, just get my notes here. So task 1 is the existing conditions and flood risk assessment. So this would review existing conditions and available data, including but not limited to existing flood risk data, environmental and geotechnical reports, property records, site surveys, and building records to develop an existing conditions and flood risk assessment report, which then will synthesize major findings, observations, and information or data gaps to inform later phases of the project. Task 2 is alternatives development and pre-permitting feasibility assessment. So this would, going back. So the data collection and gap analysis, that's would be conducting an inventory of waterfront structures and conditions assessment for waterfront areas adjacent to Easy Street. And then a gap analysis will identify missing data sets or information that'll be necessary to undertake the conceptual design and feasibility analysis and recommended steps to collect these data or potential assumptions that can be used under such time that the data can be collected. The coastal and stormwater risk assessment, which is within task 1, would leverage the risk assessment conducted through the CRP, and the project team will conduct a detailed analysis of flood risk in the downtown neighborhood with a focus on the area surrounding Easy Street and Steamboat Wharf. It'll include stormwater, tidal, and coastal flooding. And then the subtask will include hydraulic modeling of the Easy Street stormwater system to understand storage volume, flow, runoff, and tidal impacts. The report would include the assessment of coastal flooding using best available coastal flood hazard data. It'll develop a site-specific understanding of flood pathways, examine risk of overtopping existing waterfront infrastructure based on current conditions and also future conditions with sea level rise, storm risks, stormwater system modifications that may be incorporated into the project, and a quantitative assessment of flood damage and losses. They'll include loss of service along Easy Street and Steamboat Wharf to inform a benefit cost analysis of the project. For task 2, that is alternatives development and pre-permitting feasibility assessment. So the feasibility assessment, or the preliminary feasibility assessment, will confirm and refine the extent and potential siting of the project, including consideration of the following criteria. So community feedback collected by the town, permitting and regulatory requirements, funding availability, long-term maintenance needs and responsibilities, design considerations related to community character and identity, opportunities for passive protection, opportunities for nature-based solutions, and opportunities for transportation and public realm enhancement. The conceptual design development, so it'll develop 4 conceptual designs for shoreline and or road elevation and associated upgrades to stormwater infrastructure, along with feasibility assessment of these alternatives to provide information and visualizations necessary to engage stakeholders. It'll explore different siting options, including at the existing bulkhead line, inland along the town-owned rights of way, and enhancements utilizing nature-based solutions. The next subtask is concept design and preliminary feasibility report. This would include info from preliminary feasibility assessment and concept design and recommendations for tie-in connections to later phases of the downtown neighborhood flood barrier, which I just mentioned, and also other resilience projects. Task 3 is community and stakeholder engagement planning strategy. So this would develop outreach and communication plan with many different outlets. You know, they would include open houses, social media posts, surveys, presentations, meetings with permitting agencies. Also, community and stakeholder engagement is important during the whole project, and especially during concept designs and refining to the 30% design for the preferred alternative. Task 4 is preliminary design development for preferred alternative and basis of design report. So a preliminary design, a 30% package of the preferred alternative, which should be refined through stakeholder and community engagement and informed by coastal and drainage assessments, cost estimates, operations and maintenance requirements, permitting and other engineering considerations. The design package will again tie into the larger downtown neighborhood flood barrier recommendation within the CRP. The preliminary design for preferred alternative, it'll develop a drawing set containing survey, demolition, grading, utility, roadway geometry, structural design plans, coastal engineering, and landscape packages, each including plans, sections, elevations, and details. The cost estimation and timing will develop a total project cost estimate that's not limited to additional surveys or modeling that is needed, final engineered plans, permitting, utility needs, construction materials, construction, operations and maintenance, and additional project management staff needed. The construction estimate will have a high and low estimation, like that's in the CRP, and an inflation multiplier based on construction timeline. So basically saying, okay, if this project gets pushed out 5 years from now, what would the price be? If it gets pushed out 10 years from now, what would the price be? And then the permitting assessment, the preferred alternative should be obviously permittable, and a memo will lay out which permits and agencies will need to be acquired for project implementation. The benefit cost analysis and funding subtask, it'll develop a FEMA approved benefit cost analysis suitable for federal funding applications. Additional benefits from the project not quantified in the CRP may need further analysis, including reductions in loss of function for roadways, ferry service, business closures, and public parks due to flooding. There are also obviously unquantifiable benefits that will accrue from project, including peace of mind for the community, protection of culturally significant historic structures, and preservation of the island's national historic landmark. The benefit cost analysis will build upon the estimated benefits from the CRP, and then it'll identify state and federal funding sources and opportunities that the project could go try to apply for. And then there will be a draft and final report, which is accompanied by the preliminary design package, which will provide details for the next stages of final design, permitting, dynamic adaptive policy pathway, construction, and identifying funding opportunities and sources. And the report should include a roadmap and timeline for preliminary design to construction and maintenance, as well as identifying any other studies, information that needs to be completed before the final design and construction. So there is a lot going into this grant. These are all the grant deliverables. I went over a lot of them, but will obviously be a project kickoff meeting. There'll be a project timeline that will be developed, and then all of the tasks that I had just mentioned. And again, this grant will fund up to the 30% design for this project.
All right, thank you, Leah.
I have a couple more slides, sorry.
Okay.
The grant timeline. So the project's estimated to take about 18 months. This is a 2-year grant. So everything needs to be finished by June 30th, 2025. The select board accepted the grant on October 18th. The RFP was released. It's on OpenGov. It was released on Monday, so that's out. The RFP closes November 20th, and then we will hopefully award a contract by November 27th. Then it has to go, once we pick which consultant company we're going to use, that has to go to the select board and they have to approve it. So the next meeting that they do that is December 6th. Then the consultant company will start within 14 days of us hiring them. December 2023 to June 2024, so the first 6 months of the project, would undertake tasks 1 and 2. So that's the existing conditions and flood risk assessment, and also the alternatives development and pre-permitting feasibility assessment. And then from July 2024 to June 2025, the next year, tasks 3 and 4 will be focused on, and that's community and stakeholder engagement and preliminary 30% design for the preferred alternative. That is everything that is going to be within the grant. And so as this kicks off, I envision CRAC being really integral part of the community engagement with all of the different outlets that we're hoping to be able to use through open houses, surveys, all of that stuff. Happy to answer any questions.
Gary?
Thank you, Peter. So first, I want to say that I am absolutely thrilled that we got this sizable grant. And I want to congratulate Leah and Vince and so many of the other town employees who worked on the paperwork, including our committee. We worked on it ourselves for a while as well. And so I'm absolutely thrilled. And I think it's a terrific accomplishment to get such a sizable award on a subject so important to us. But the only comment I have is that, Leah, I was a little surprised to see that in your first slide, that little yellow circle shows the area that we're focusing on. I was under a different impression. When we were working on this grant, I was thinking about the same thing that New Bedford has, which is a way to close the harbor. And I thought all along that the efforts that we were making were talking about, and that's, by the way, that's the plan. That is that's our first priority. If you look at the CRP and you take a look at which is our first priority, which is closing the harbor, putting the harbor in a protective status. So, and that was a much larger area that is being protected by this closure. So I guess at some point, either the state or we decided that we would only ask for the protection for this small segment of that, of the whole waterfront. Is that correct?
Peter, if I can answer that.
Yep.
Gary, I think you might be a little confused. So the downtown neighborhood flood barrier is on land. The picture that is depicted in the CRP of that barrier in the water, that's not a recommendation. That was just a conceptual design of something that I don't think that would ever get permitted, but it was put into the CRP as an idea. But the downtown neighborhood flood barrier is strictly on land.
Thank you. I guess I'm confused. Yep.
I can.
Anyone
I'll send you the
I'll look
the
at the
pages
plan again.
and the CRP. Yeah, that's.
Yeah. It's still terrific that we got it. I'm not complaining.
Any other members have comments? Christie?
Hi, Leah, great job on this. I on the CZM grant page where it shows what it covers, you have a good idea that that grant will cover all those components. I know these things add up. So yeah, little comment on that.
Yeah, so when you apply for the grant, you have to put in a budget. And so they're all budgeted out for all of the components. And I worked with Arcadis on that just to help with the estimations for each of those deliverables. So the grant, that's where we came up with the total grant number to cover all of those deliverables and all the surveys.
Great, thank you.
Tim?
Yes, I have just a clarification. And when you say there'll be examples of how much it will cost if we go right away, if we do it in 5 years, 10 years, what are the causes of the increases? I'm just ignorant about this. Is it just inflation, or is it are there other factors?
Definitely inflation for sure. They put in an inflation calculator. I don't know what goes into it, but the consultants will do that. And then, yeah, cost inflation, cost of supplies. If for some reason, if let's say sea level rise accelerates a lot, and it would have to, if we choose the road elevation, that's get elevated more, the cost of supplies.
Got
But
it.
the consultants will work. The consultants will put all of that information into that.
Great, thank you.
And also, Tim, when you consider a lot of our road building materials are now brought here by barge, the cost of that most likely goes up over time. So that's one big thing. So it's just you think about all the costs for doing a project like that and where all the materials.
Thanks, Peter. So is any of it the cost of complications from sea level rise as you push it into the future, or is it really just costs of materials and construction and so on, or do you not know?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay,
that's for the engineers and the consultants to figure out.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Christie, go ahead.
Yeah, just on that, I was just going to try to offer somewhat of an answer, but as time goes on, obviously there's going to be demand from many communities to do the same work, and that will push the price way up. So, obviously the sooner you do things, if your planning's right, then probably the better, but demand will kick in at some point.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. I see no other hands. So thank you very much, Leah. for going through that, for staying with it. Congratulations that we got it. That's all of us and Mary Longacre as well, and Carl Borchert and Leah and Vince. So good job. Okay. Item 11, approval of minutes from October 10, 2023. Assuming we've all read the minutes, does anyone have any edits? No edits. Okay, I'll take a motion for approval.
So
Mary
moved.
Bell. Seconded by Tim Brain. Roll call vote, going left to right across the screen. Tim Brain,
Aye.
Doug Rose,
Aye.
Joanna Roach,
Aye.
Sarah Boyce,
Aye.
Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Gary Beller,
Aye.
Abby De Molina.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. New Business Committee and Natural Resources Department reports from our various boards that are represented on this committee. Does anybody who is on these boards, committees and commissions have reports? All quiet. Okay.
Yep.
Leah, wait, what? Christy, go ahead.
I just have a comment from Capital Committee. We did meet with administration 2 weeks ago, where the coastal resiliency line item is. And initially, when we were talking, a month ago or so, talking about funding, and I thought it would look like maybe the general funding component would go away in lieu of more specific projects. It's possible because that funding that we currently do gives the department, natural resources, a lot of flexibility for the funding, that might always be there. And then we will be adding on different projects. It might look more like that, as opposed to removing that existing funding that we are currently using.
All right, thanks, Christy.
FY. Yeah. And then Peter, I just had a comment on the agenda at some point.
Go ahead.
I was just going to make a recommendation with a lot of the assignments and stuff, that maybe towards the bottom here, that there's an item that says homework, because I know there's a lot of things that come out of each item that we might have. So it would be good for that to be consolidated at one point at the bottom of the meeting or end of the meeting, for us to know really what our homework is, considering we will have random homework assignments. And instead of trying to decipher where our homework is coming from, which item, it would be nice for maybe at the end of each meeting for Leah just to sort of go over what our assignment is, whether it's individual or committee-wide.
Yeah, it's an excellent idea, especially personally on my end. My brain is going a million different directions all the time. So to have it right there in front of me, I could actually hold on to the agenda throughout the time and look at what my assignments are. So that's a good idea. Does everyone else, do we all like that idea? Yes, Leah? Okay.
Yep, I can do that.
Excellent. Okay. Why don't you go ahead with the National Coastal Conference?
Okay. I feel like I've been talking a lot today. So 2 weeks ago, I went to the National Coastal Conference, which was in Providence, Rhode Island. It was put on by American Shore and Beach Preservation Association, and talks ranged from, there were a lot of talks. They ranged from living shorelines to different modeling techniques, to larger structural projects. But a couple of the takeaways were, I learned about, it's called the UK Green Book Wellbeing Approach. And that is obviously was developed out of the UK. And it puts a dollar value on larger CRP projects that would reduce anxiety, enhance sense of place, increase public safety. So it's really like a social cost benefit analysis, which I thought was really cool because I know in our CRP that was hard to quantify. So I thought that, for projects moving forward to be able to quantify those mental health aspects and, sense of place and all of that could be beneficial, because it would obviously add the benefit would increase, or the dollar amount of the benefit would increase for the project. Another takeaway was it's called a dynamic adaptive pathways, or DAPS for short. And a consultant from the Woods Hole Group presented about this. I might see if he can come to one of these meetings and give the same presentation. It was really like an innovative way to look at coastal resilience projects. So it's a visualization tool and a strategy for coastal resilience projects to buy time, gives flexibility, and doesn't box you into a specific design, but allows you to learn along the way and start to phase in different design aspects for the project. It also helps town staff work with the community, and they did one for Surf Drive in Falmouth. So they have that as an example, but I thought it would be a great idea for us to all learn about it and see if we can be able to use that strategy for any of the upcoming coastal resilience projects. And then there is a huge project out in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, but it's called the Coastal Texas Project, and it includes these giant floodgates, and the Army Corps is actually putting it on. They're paying $1.8 billion a year to construct this project, and it is massive. I'll find the link and send it to you. And it's to protect, I forgot which port in Texas, but it's the busiest port in the United States. And then FEMA gave a presentation on the Region 1 erosion projection maps, which Nantucket was the first in the state or in the country to get those maps. And they've started to do them for all of Region 1. And I asked them, because our maps have the older sea level rise projections by NOAA. So I asked them if they were planning on updating our maps to have the most current projections. And they kind of gave me the runaround saying that they need more money to be able to update those maps. But so that was nice to be able to talk to them. So that was the conference was great. And then I just have another, I know Jen got off, she had to leave, but I heard from the trustees because they were at the conference. Cynthia didn't, but I can never say her last name. Cynthia was there. But they received the NIFWIF grant that they were hoping that they would get. And that is to implement CRP recommendation 4-3, which is a high priority. It's the CO2 erosion management and dune resilience, and then look at a couple other places on CO2 to do resilience there. So maybe at another time, Jen and Cynthia can give a presentation on that as that project moves forward.
And so is that, sorry, Leah, does that grant also cover, because I know that trustees and Conservation Foundation did their study together for the whole of CO2 and Cascada and Great Point, and the places that they identified were vulnerable areas were Second Bend and Haulover Pond and Cascada Pond and the Galls. So does that grant cover those 4 vulnerable spots, or is it just the one you mentioned, or just the trustees?
So I believe it covers 2 of the 4 spots. I can't remember which ones, but yeah, it's 2 of them. And then it also includes some work being done on Martha's Vineyard on their properties as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so discussion of upcoming meeting dates and topics. The next meeting is what? Is it 3 weeks from now? Is that right? Looks like it.
The November 14th.
3 weeks, so 3 weeks. All right, well. If anyone has anything else, that's great. If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Peter,
Doug,
could we just really quickly rewind and just go over our homework for next meeting?
okay, it's you, Leah.
Okay. So you're going to email me any organizations that we should tag within our social media posts. And then you're also going to email me, once you look at the timeline again, which projects you would prefer to post about. And then I'll decipher that and assign different weeks to people and give you the due when it's due. I'll also put in that email further information about what you should include.
And I'll be doing the first one, which is due tomorrow.
Yes. Well, Thursday.
Okay, well, I'll be doing it tomorrow, but, and I don't have to email you, whichever one you want to assign me after that is fine, and if there are ones that people don't want to do, then I'll make an attempt at doing those as well, so.
Okay.
Make sure we get them all. Okay. Is that good for you, Doug? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, Sarah and Joanna seconded. Okay. So roll call vote, Tim Brain,
Aye, sorry.
Doug Rose,
Aye.
Joanna Roach,
aye.
Sarah Boyce,
Aye.
Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Gary Beller,
Aye.
Abby DeMolina.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Great meeting, you guys. Lots and lots of great comments, everybody contributing. Really feel like we're moving along toward public outreach. And good suggestion, Christy, about the homework listed at the bottom. Definitely. All right. Later.